My name is Olivia. I am 19 years old, but sometimes I feel like I've been living for centuries, each year stretched by silence, each day marked by the weight of secrets I was never supposed to carry. They say every house has its shadows. Mine was drowning in them. On the surface, everything seemed normal. A quiet suburban home, a mother who smiled too much, and an uncle who had generously moved in to help us after my father disappeared. But I knew better. A smile can be a mask. And a man who calls himself family can still feel like a stranger. I never spoke much. People at school thought I was shy, maybe even weak. But silence isn't weakness, it's a weapon. While everyone underestimated me, I was listening, watching, collecting the fragments of truth that slipped through cracks in their stories. The first scar on my body appeared when I was 12. Not from an accident, not from some childish clumsiness, but from a moment of violence I can never erase. My uncle's hand gripping my wrist too hard, my skin burning, my tears ignored. I told myself it was just one time. But the silence after was louder than the pain. And once you start burying things in silence, they multiply. By the time I turned 15, the house had become a labyrinth of whispers and locked doors. My mother pretended nothing was wrong. She cooked dinner, laughed at television shows, even kissed my uncle on the cheek like it was the most natural thing in the world. I wanted to scream every time. But I didn't. I swallowed it. I became invisible in my own home. But then, something changed. One night, while searching for a notebook I had misplaced, I opened the wrong drawer in the study. Inside wasn't paper or pens, it was a photograph. My father, holding me as a little girl, smiling with the same warm eyes I barely remembered. The picture was torn down the middle, and the half with my mother was missing. Beneath it lay a letter, half burned. My hands trembled as I read the remaining words. "Oh, you'll regret this, she will know one day, blood doesn't lie." I froze. Who had written this? My father? To my mother? To my uncle? My silence cracked that night, not into words, but into a scream that only I heard inside. For the first time, I knew, my father hadn't just disappeared. He had been erased. And someone in this house knew why. The morning after I found the letter, I couldn't look at my mother the same way. Every movement of hers felt rehearsed, every word rehearsed. She poured orange juice into my glass, humming softly, pretending she was just another mother starting another ordinary day. But when her eyes brushed mine, I saw it, fear, quickly hidden behind a smile. I asked the question I had been choking on since childhood. "Mom, where's Dad?" Her hand froze on the glass. For a moment, her mask slipped. Then she laughed lightly, too lightly. "Olivia, you know the story. He left. He couldn't handle the responsibility. Some men just stop." My voice shook, but I forced myself to hold her gaze. "I don't believe you." Her eyes hardened. "Don't start digging, Olivia. Some things are better left buried." Better left buried. The words clung to me all day, wrapping around me like chains. But I wasn't a little girl anymore. And I was done being silent. That night, when the house fell asleep, I searched again. I started with the basement, my uncle's office. He never let me down there. The air smelled of damp concrete and something metallic. Old boxes stacked high, filing cabinets, a locked drawer. I found a set of keys in his jacket pocket earlier that day. My hands trembled as I turned the lock. Inside, I found documents, papers stamped with my father's name. Bank accounts closed. Assets transferred. Signatures that didn't look like his. And then, a police report. Missing person, Daniel Hayes. Filed by no one. Tears blurred my vision. My mother never reported him missing. My uncle had taken over his accounts. And the photo I found upstairs now made sense. Someone had been trying to erase my father from every record, every memory. But the most chilling part wasn't the paperwork. It was a single object wrapped in an old cloth, my father's watch. A gift I had given him when I was 10. The glass face was cracked, stained with something dark. Blood. My breath caught. My knees weakened. And then, I heard it. A floorboard creak above me. Slow. Heavy. Someone else was awake. I shoved the watch into my pocket, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure it would give me away. As I crept toward the stairs, I heard my uncle's voice, low and sharp, speaking into the phone. She's starting to ask questions. No, I won't let her find out. If she does, she'll end up just like him. The world tilted under me. End up just like him. My father wasn't missing. He was dead. And I was next. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the old house felt like a warning, every shadow whispered danger. The watch burned in my pocket as though it carried my father's last heartbeat. At breakfast, I studied them, my mother, pale but determined to act normal, my uncle, calm, his every movement calculated. The silence between them wasn't just silence. It was complicity. When my uncle noticed my eyes on him, he smirked. "You're awfully quiet today, Olivia. Something on your mind?" I forced a small smile. "Just schoolwork." His gaze lingered too long, like he was searching for cracks in my lie. Finally, he nodded. But I knew he didn't believe me. After breakfast, I skipped school. Instead, I went to the library. If I was going to uncover the truth, I needed records, newspapers, anything that could tell me what had really happened to my father. The archives smelled of dust and ink. My hands shook as I scrolled through old newspapers, one after another, until a headline froze me in place. Local businessman Daniel Hayes disappears without a trace. The article was brief, almost dismissive. Police suspect voluntary disappearance due to financial strain. Lies. I knew my father. He would never abandon us. But then, buried at the bottom of the page, almost as an afterthought, I found something that sent chills down my spine. Last seen leaving a downtown cafe with his brother-in-law, Richard Collins. Richard. My uncle. I pressed my trembling hand against the paper, as if touching it could make it less real. My uncle had been the last person to see my father alive. As I sat frozen in the library chair, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Stop looking, Olivia. For your own good." My throat went dry. How did they know? Who was watching me? I shoved my phone into my bag and rushed out. The city streets blurred around me, but I could feel it, someone following me. Every reflection in the shop windows, every passing stranger, I couldn't shake the feeling of being hunted. When I finally reached home, my mother was waiting at the door, arms crossed, eyes blazing. "Where were you?" she demanded. "I could ask you the same," I shot back. "Why didn't you ever report Dad missing? Why is his name in Uncle Richard's files? Why do you keep lying to me?" Her face went pale, and for a moment, she looked guilty. Then she whispered words that cut deeper than any blade. "Olivia, you're not supposed to know. You were never supposed to know." I felt the ground slip beneath me. Never supposed to know what? Before I could ask, my uncle stepped into the hallway, his smile cold and sharp. "Enough questions. It's time you understood where your place is." And in that moment, I realized, my own family wasn't just hiding secrets. They were the secret. My uncle's voice echoed in the hallway, his words heavy and final. "It's time you understood where your place is." A shiver ran down my spine, but I forced myself to stand tall. "And where is that exactly?" I asked, my voice sharp despite the fear clawing inside me. He didn't answer. Instead, he exchanged a glance with my mother, one so loaded with unspoken meaning that it made me sick. Something passed between them, an understanding that I wasn't supposed to witness. "I'm not a child anymore," I snapped. "If you think I'm just going to sit here while you both lie to me, you're wrong." My mother's hands trembled as she reached for me. "Olivia, please. You don't understand. It's dangerous." "Dangerous?" I pulled away. "The only danger here is the two of you and your secrets." My uncle chuckled, low and cruel. "She's got her father's temper. Too bad she doesn't realize where that got him." The air was sucked out of my lungs. "What do you mean?" He tilted his head, enjoying every second of my confusion. Daniel wasn't as innocent as you think. He was involved in things, dangerous things. He owed money to people who don't forgive. People who came knocking at his door. My heart raced. I wanted to scream that he was lying, that my father was good, honorable, incapable of being dragged into anything criminal. But a part of me, small, trembling, wondered, what if there was truth in his words? I shook my head violently. You're lying. You've always hated him. Richard's smirk widened. Believe what you want. But the night he disappeared, I gave him one last chance. He refused. My stomach dropped. Refused what? Silence. My uncle simply walked away, leaving me gasping in the hallway, my mother sobbing quietly against the wall. I wanted to chase after him, to demand answers, but my mother grabbed my wrist. Olivia, stop. If you push too hard, they'll come after you too. They. I whispered. Her lips parted, as if she was about to confess, but just then a loud knock rattled the front door. My mother froze. Richard returned, suddenly pale, his confidence shaken. Stay in your room, he ordered me. But I didn't move. My blood boiled with questions and rage. Who was at the door? Who were they? And what did my father refuse? Through the crack of my bedroom door, I watched as Richard opened it. A tall man in a dark coat stood outside. His voice was low, but I caught fragments. Oh, she's asking too many questions. The girl doesn't know yet. The deal must be kept. The man handed Richard an envelope. My uncle slipped it into his pocket and nodded. That was it. Proof. My father hadn't simply disappeared. He had been betrayed, sold out, by his own brother-in-law. I gripped the locket around my neck, the only piece of my father I had left, and made a silent vow. I may be young. I may be scared. But I will find the truth. And when I do, they'll regret underestimating me. And as I whispered that vow to myself, a terrifying thought struck me. What if my mother was part of it too? I couldn't sleep that night. The image of the tall man handing Richard the envelope replayed in my head over and over. Every instinct screamed that it held the answers I'd been searching for. At dawn, while the house was quiet, I crept downstairs. Richard's coat still hung on the rack by the door. My fingers trembled as I slipped into his pocket and pulled out the envelope. Inside were photographs, grainy, black and white surveillance shots. My father, Daniel, standing with men I didn't recognize. His expression was tense, almost desperate. In one photo, Richard was with him, whispering something into his ear. And then, the last photograph, my father being dragged into a black car, his face twisted in pain. A gasp tore from my throat. Oh my God. Olivia. I spun around. My mother stood at the bottom of the stairs, her eyes swollen from crying, her voice almost breaking. You weren't supposed to see that. My chest tightened. So it's true? You knew all along? You let me believe he just left us? Tears streamed down her face. I wanted to protect you. If you knew the truth, they would never stop coming for you. Your father, he made choices, but not all of them were his. Richard pushed him into it. And when he tried to get out, her voice cracked. They killed him. The room spun. And you let Richard stay in our house? Act like he owned us. I had no choice, she sobbed. He said if I didn't obey, they'd take you too. I couldn't lose you, Olivia. Something inside me snapped. Years of silence, confusion, and pain erupted all at once. No. I won't let him control us anymore. I won't let them erase Dad like he never existed. Before my mother could stop me, I stormed toward Richard's study. He was inside, sipping his morning coffee, smug as ever. I slammed the photographs onto his desk. You lied. You betrayed him. You killed my father. For a moment, he didn't flinch. Then, slowly, a dark smile curled on his lips. Careful, Olivia. You're treading dangerous ground. I leaned forward, my voice cold as steel. No. You should be careful. Because I was silent too long. And now, my revenge will speak. The flicker of surprise in his eyes told me one thing. For the first time, he realized I wasn't afraid of him. And as I walked out of that room, heart pounding but spirit unbroken, I knew this was just the beginning. I wasn't just my father's daughter anymore. I was his voice, his vengeance, his unfinished justice. And no matter how deep Richard's lies went, I would drag every single one of them